All right, let's dive in. You know the dream, right? Making money without having to clock in, trading every single hour for dollars.
hmm That whole idea of passive income, earning while you're, I don't know, sleeping on vacation.
Something else entirely, yeah.
Yeah,
It's a really appealing concept.
it absolutely is. This idea you can set something up and then it just generates revenue with, minimal ongoing effort. It's about financial flexibility, really.
And that's exactly what we're doing a deep dive into today. We've got this great stack of sources you pulled together, articles from places like Investopedia laying out the basics,
Right, the definitions and standard ideas.
and then insights from blogs, a business plans, Toolify, affiliate marketing dude, getting into the nitty-gritty of specific methods, and importantly, how new AI tools fit in.
Yeah, especially one that kept popping up in these sources. Google NotebookLM seems like it could be a real game changer for certain approaches.
So our mission here is to unpack all this,
Yeah.
figure out what passive income really means, like the dream versus the reality, and crucially, the tax side of things.
And then explore some interesting ways people are actually trying to generate it.
Exactly. And shine a light on how AI, like that Notebook LM tool, might be a powerful helper, particularly for income streams involving, content and information,
We'll touch on everything from like renting out a room you're not using.
all the way to leveraging your own expertise to create digital products, yeah.
Yeah.
And how AI can maybe help you research, organize, and create that stuff faster than before.
Sounds good. Where should we start? The definition.
Let's start with the basics, yeah. That Investopedia source gives the common understanding. It's pretty simple. Money earned from something other than your main job, needing little active work once it's set up.
Right. The classic examples are always things like rental income, maybe book royalties, or selling an online course again and again.
That's the general idea, the one everyone kind of pictures.
But here's where it gets a bit more complicated, especially when you look at the tax implications. The IRS has its own way of slicing things up.
Ah, yes. The tax man cometh.
Yeah. They basically see income in three main buckets. Active income, which is your salary, wages, business profits if you're heavily involved.
Your day job, basically.
Pretty much. Then there's portfolio income, that's your interest, dividends, capital gains from, say, stocks or bonds.
Okay.
And then there's passive income, according to the IRS.
So it's a specific category for them.
Yeah.
What falls into that IRS passive income box?
According to the source, it's mainly two things: net rental income and income from a business activity where the taxpayer does not materially participate.
Materially participate. Okay, that sounds like lawyer speak. What does that actually mean?
It basically means you're not significantly involved in running the show day to day. The IRS has tests, like, how many hours you put in.
Over 500 hours was one threshold mentioned, right?
Exactly. Or if your participation is pretty much all the participation there is, or even if you put in 100 hours and that's as much as anyone else. But the core idea is, are you just an investor, or is your involvement minimal?
So if you're just funding it
Yeah.
or barely involved compared to others running it.
Then the income might qualify as passive for tax purposes. If you're the one steering the ship, managing employees, making key decisions daily, that's usually active income.
Which is why rental properties are often the go-to example, I guess. For many landlords, the day-to-day isn't super intensive after setup.
Right. Compared to, say, running a busy shop.
Okay, so rental income is usually passive. Any catches or nuances there from the source?
Yeah, a couple of important ones. If you're a real estate professional, like it's your actual job, then your rental income might be considered active.
Because it's part of your main gig.
Exactly. And interestingly, income from just leasing land without buildings on it apparently doesn't count as passive income under these rules. Specific details, but they matter.
Good to know. Okay, this brings us to something you mentioned earlier, portfolio income. And this is where a lot of people get tripped up, right? Like, I own some dividend stocks. I do basically zero work. Surely that's passive.
And that's the key distinction the Investopedia source really hammers home. The IRS classifies income from investments, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, crypto gains, interest as portfolio income.
Not passive income, even if it feels totally passive.
Correct. Even if you exert almost no effort, it's a different tax category. And this isn't just like tax nerd trivia.
Why does it matter so much?
Well, it hugely impacts things like how you can use losses, which brings us to the passive loss rules mentioned in the source.
Right. Offsetting losses. What's the deal there?
The general rule is you can only deduct passive losses against income you earn from other passive activities.
Okay, so if my rental property loses money one year,
You usually can't use that loss to reduce the taxes you owe on your salary from your regular job because that's active income.
So the loss is kind of stuck in the passive bucket.
Pretty much. You might have to carry it forward to use against future passive income. It's a big factor when you're thinking about the risks of a passive venture. Is the potential income worth it if you can't easily deduct losses against your main income?
Got it. Okay, so takeaway number one. Passive income means one thing generally, but something quite specific to the IRS, especially for taxes and losses. You got to know which definition applies.
Exactly. Clarity on that is fundamental before you jump into anything.
All right, now that we've got that crucial tax clarity, let's shift gears from definitions to actual opportunities. The sources list tons of ways people are generating income that, at least fits the general idea of passive.
Right, let's look at some categories. Physical assets seem like a good place to start. Often high potential income there.
Yeah, the tangible stuff. Renting out property you own, that's the classic. The source mentioned short-term, like Airbnb, maybe $100 to $300 a day.
Yeah, or long-term rentals, looking at maybe $100K to $2 and $5Ks a month per property, obviously depending heavily on location and size.
The upsides are pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Potential for steady cash flow, maybe the property value goes up, some tax benefits.
But the sources were realistic too. Downsides like vacancies, no tenant, no income. Maintenance is inevitable. Dealing with tenants or guests isn't always smooth sailing.
And local rules, yeah. Zoning, short-term rental restrictions.
Definitely. The tips were sensible. Research local laws, get a rock-solid lease agreement, do regular inspections, basic landlord stuff.
Then there were some more niche ideas using physical assets. Specialty vehicle storage. Tell me about that.
Yeah, that one caught my eye too. This is renting out space specifically for RVs, boats, classic cars, that kind of thing.
Okay, so not just mini storage units.
Right. The potential income cited was like $100 to $1,000 a month per space, and potentially even higher if it's climate controlled or has top-notch security.
Why is that niche interesting?
Well, the market's apparently growing. Profit margins can be better than standard self-storage, and once it's set up, the daily management can be pretty minimal.
What are the catches?
The main things are probably higher insurance costs, you're storing valuable items, and the initial investment to get the space suitable. Maybe you need higher ceilings, better security, that sort of thing.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And then going even bigger scale, solar or wind farm leasing.
Right. This is if you happen to own significant amounts of land in the right place. You lease it out to energy companies.
How much income are we talking?
The source suggested solar leases might bring in $500 to $2,000 per acre per year. For wind turbines, it could be more like $4,000 to $8,000 per turbine per year.
Wow. Okay. That sounds very passive for the landowner.
It generally is. These are usually very long-term leases, decades sometimes, stable income, minimal maintenance for the landowner, and sometimes you can still use the land around the panels or turbines for things like grazing.
What's the downside or the requirement?
The big one is location, location, location. You need lots of sun and flat land near power lines for solar or consistently windy spots for turbines. And, wind farms especially have visual and sometimes noise impacts. It requires a very specific asset. Lots of the right kind of land.
Okay, so those are all about owning significant physical assets. What about smaller scale, just renting out stuff you already have lying around?
Yeah, leveraging things you own but maybe don't use all the time. Tools, camping gear, sports equipment, even your car when you're not using it. Platforms exist now to facilitate this.
The appeal is getting income from idle assets, right?
Exactly. Flexibility, too. But the sources also point out the downsides. Wear and tear on your stuff, managing availability. What if you need your ladder when it's rented out?
Liability concerns, too, I bet, and just the hassle factor.
Definitely. And storage, when it's not rented out, it's an option, but maybe not as passive as it first sounds.
Okay, moving slightly away from directly owning and managing, REITs came up, real estate investment trusts.
Right. So instead of buying a building, you buy shares in a company that owns and operates income-producing real estate, apartment complexes, malls, office buildings, etc.
So you get exposure to real estate without being a landlord.
Exactly. You get professional management, potential for dividends. The source mentioned yields, often in the 1% to 10% plus range annually, and the shares themselves might appreciate.
And connecting back to our tax discussion.
Yep, you guessed it. Income from REITs is typically considered IRS portfolio income, not passive income, because you're holding a security, not directly involved in the rental activity itself.
That distinction again. Okay, let's look at other investment and finance ideas. Also potentially high income, but mostly falling into that portfolio category for tax purposes.
Right. Bonds and bond funds were mentioned. They provide income through interest payments, generally seen as lower risk than stocks.
More stable, predictable income. Good for capital preservation, maybe?
Potentially, yes. But the trade-off is usually lower returns compared to stocks. And they have risks too. Interest rate risk is a big one. If rates go up, existing bond values tend to fall. Plus, credit risk, the chance the issuer just won't pay you back.
Okay. Then dividend-paying stocks. Probably what many people think of first for investment income.
Very common. The sources suggested typical annual yields might be between 2% and 7%. Plus, the stock price itself might go up, giving you capital appreciation. And they're usually easy to buy and sell liquid. But stock prices are volatile, and dividends aren't guaranteed. Companies can and do cut or stop paying them, especially in tough times. Requires research.
And index funds. Buying the whole market, essentially.
Yeah, a super popular way to get broad diversification easily and cheaply. You track a market index like the S&P 500. Returns come from both the dividends paid by the companies in the index and increases in the share prices.
Potential returns look pretty good in the source, like 7-20% plus annually, depending on the market.
Right, but the downside is you're totally exposed to overall market drops. If the whole market tanks, your index fund tanks with it. And you have zero control over which specific companies you own. Again, income and gains here are IRS portfolio income.
So all these investment methods feel passive day to day, but the IRS treats them differently than, say, that rental property. Peer-to-peer lending also came up?
Yes, using online platforms to lend money directly to individuals or small businesses, kind of cutting out the bank.
What's the appeal?
Potentially earning higher interest rates than you'd get from a savings account or maybe even some bonds.
And the risks. Sounds risky.
It definitely can be. The big risk is the borrower defaulting, just not paying you back. Your money's also usually tied up for the loan term, so it's not liquid. And there's platform risk. What if the lending platform itself goes under?
Lots to consider there. Okay, let's switch gears pretty significantly now. We've covered physical assets, financial investments. Now let's focus on digital stuff. Content, information products. Because this is where the sources really highlighted AI starting to play a big role.
Yeah, this is a really interesting transition point in the material. While all those other ideas exist, the rise of these accessible AI tools seems to be really opening up new avenues or making existing digital ones much more efficient.
And the tool mentioned repeatedly across different sources was Google NotebookLM. What exactly is it? Why is it relevant here?
So NotebookLM is framed as an AI research and learning assistant. The key thing is it trains primarily on your specific uploaded content.
So I feed it stuff, like PDFs, web links, my own notes.
Exactly. PDFs, Google Docs, text files, website links, even YouTube video transcripts. It doesn't just scrape the whole web like a general chatbot. It learns from the source material you provide.
Okay, interesting. And what does it do with that material?
Based only on those sources you gave it, it can generate summaries, answer questions, create FAQs, outlines, study guides. And a feature highlighted was its ability to create mind maps that visually show how concepts in your sources connect.
A mind map generated from my specific research material. That sounds potentially really useful for getting organized.
It seems like it. It directly tackles that challenge of taking a pile of research and making sense of it quickly.
Which connects to something the affiliate marketing dude source said, right?
Yeah.
About understanding being the real secret sauce online.
Exactly. That source made a great point. It argued that the core of making money online, especially with information or content, isn't some super complex marketing trick. It's about gaining a deep understanding of a topic faster than others and then explaining it clearly.
And NotebookLM helps with that understanding part.
That's the idea. By helping you digest, synthesize, and organize complex information from your chosen sources, both visually with mind maps and textually with summaries, it could drastically speed up getting to that point of deep understanding.
Okay, that makes sense. It helps you learn and structure the information faster. So if NotebookLM helps you understand, how do you turn that into actual income? What did the sources suggest?
Several paths emerged. One major one is creating content assets. You could take those mind maps or summaries NotebookLM generates from your sources.
Use them as a starting point.
Right, as frameworks or outlines for, say, blog posts or detailed online guides. You'd obviously add your own insights, voice, examples, make it your own.
And then monetize it.
Yeah, often by strategically placing relevant affiliate links within that helpful content. The affiliate marketing dude source even gave an example, potentially linked to this method, of earning like $1,455 in a week.
So AI helps research and structure, you create the valuable content around it, and affiliate links generate the income. What else?
Video content. You could use the outlines or summaries from NotebookLM as a basis for scripts for explainer videos.
Like tutorials or informational
Yeah,
videos.
exactly. It could be simple, maybe even faceless videos with just a voiceover. Good for platforms like YouTube, YouTube Shorts, TikTok. The AI helps you quickly structure a clear explanation based on your source material.
The A business plan source had that detailed plan from Doug, right? Using NotebookLM for his YouTube channel.
Yes, that was a fascinating example of how this AI-assisted creation can become a central hub. His plan involved using NotebookLM to process research and generate ideas and outlines for daily videos or podcasts.
And the key was how one piece of content, created with AI's help, could fuel multiple income streams.
Precisely. That single video, for instance, could earn Google ad revenue if the channel's monetized. You could take the transcript, clean it up slightly, publish it on Medium for their partner program income. The topic could inspire an email newsletter, using something like Beehive was mentioned, which could then have its own ads or affiliate links. You could directly recommend tools or services you discussed in the video with your own referral links.
Wow, okay. Keep going.
And as you build authority with this content, you could potentially launch a more in-depth online course based on the material, or even create a paid private community around the topic.
So the AI helps create the initial content piece more efficiently, and that piece becomes the foundation, the hub, for maybe half a dozen different potential revenue spokes.
That's a great way to put it. The AI assists in building the hub, which then enables multiple spokes.
What about creating something like an ebook?
Absolutely. The Toolify source specifically broke down how NotebookLM could help there. You'd use it for brainstorming ideas based on sources you feed it, then for gathering and organizing all your research articles, notes, whatever.
So it helps build the structure, the outline.
Yes, a strong source-based outline. Then you still have to do the writing, the editing, but the research and structuring phase, which can be really time-consuming, is potentially much faster.
And then sell the ebook.
Right, on platforms like Amazon KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, or Gumroad, which is popular for selling digital products directly to an audience.
Ebooks definitely fit the passive model once written. Low startup cost, scalable write once, sell forever automated sales via the platform.
For sure. The cons mentioned were the upfront time to actually write it, potential competition in crowded markets, and needing some basic tech skills for formatting and uploading.
But the AI helps specifically with that heavy lifting on the research and outlining part.
Exactly. It tackles a major bottleneck in the creation process.
Could you even sell the research itself as a service using the tool?
That was another interesting angle from the affiliate marketing dude source, offering research services on freelance sites like Fiverr.
How would that work?
You could sell, say, custom mind maps, detailed summaries, or structured briefings on a specific topic, generated and organized using NotebookLM based on sources the client provides, or maybe sources you gather on a topic they choose.
So you're selling the AI-assisted output directly?
Essentially, yes, selling the structured information. The source floated potential price points like $20 to $80 per service, depending on the complexity.
That's clever. Using the tool's output as the deliverable. Did the sources mention other AI tools that could help with these kinds of ventures?
Yeah, the Write Blogger source listed several. Write Blogger itself for generating drafts of blog posts, ad copy, social media updates, even helping with translation or drafting freelance proposals.
So tools for the writing and marketing side.
Right, and things like ChatGPT for general brainstorming, maybe even some simple coding assistance if you know how to verify it. Midjourney for creating specific AI images, though that takes prompting skill. These tools can enhance various parts of the process for content-based or online service hustles.
So AI can help with writing, marketing copy, images, admin.
It streamlines a lot of the process, definitely. And this is a crucial point that came up, especially in the Write Blogger source, even with all this AI assistance.
It's not instant magic money.
No, not even close. None of these are genuine get-rich-quick schemes. They all still require significant upfront effort.
You still have to do the work.
Absolutely. You need the creativity to find the right niche or angle, the strategic thinking to market it effectively, and the persistence to actually build it and stick with it. AI makes the research, the organization, maybe the first draft, much faster and more efficient. But it doesn't replace the need for your input, refinement, promotion, and overall strategy.
It's an assistant, a powerful one maybe, but not a replacement for the entrepreneur or creator.
That's a perfect way to think about it.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. What does this mean for you listening right now?
Well, I think it means that passive income, at least in that broader sense of creating income streams that aren't directly tied to hours worked, is still a very real and appealing goal for gaining financial flexibility or diversifying your income.
And the big news is that AI tools seem to be genuinely lowering the barrier to entry for some of these methods.
Especially, it seems, for ventures that involve leveraging knowledge, expertise, or just the ability to process information effectively and turn it into something valuable for others, like digital content, courses, or specific services.
So, thinking about your own situation, like that Investopedia source advised, what's your available capital? How much time can you realistically commit up front? What's your tolerance for risk? These factors really shape which ideas might even be feasible for you.
Exactly. Don't just chase what seems popular. Think about what fits your resources and goals.
And how could you potentially use these insights? Do you have a skill, a hobby, some expertise you could package? Or maybe a topic you're just really curious about?
Could you use a tool like NotebookLM, feed it some quality sources you find, and quickly get up to speed on that topic? Could you then structure that understanding maybe as an ebook outline, a series of short video scripts, maybe even just offering focused research summaries and provide value to others who need that information?
So to wrap up this deep dive, we've seen passive income has that popular appeal, but also a specific important tax definition, especially distinguishing it from portfolio income like dividends.
Right, that was key.
We've explored a whole range of ideas, from physical assets like rental properties or even land leases, to financial instruments, and then significantly into the digital realm of content and information products.
And crucially, we saw how AI tools, with Google NotebookLM as a prime example from our sources, are emerging as really powerful assistants. They can speed up the research, deepen the understanding, and make the creation of content frameworks much more efficient.
Which can form the backbone of many different passive income streams, especially online.
It's definitely an exciting development. These tools are making certain strategies much more accessible.
Absolutely. And maybe here's a final thought to leave you with. Given how capable AI tools are becoming at helping us digest, synthesize, and structure information from various sources, think about a topic or a problem you're genuinely interested in, something you already know a bit about or something you'd like to learn.
Where are you going with this?
Could you use AI, like NotebookLM, to rapidly deepen your understanding of that topic using good sources? And could the act of clearly explaining that newfound, well-structured understanding to other people, could that be your starting point for building your own AI-assisted passive income stream?